Hello, this is the reading guide for part 1, sections 4, 5, and 6. Let's go ahead and get into the reading and see where the answers lie for these questions that we were posed on this guy. So, we again are on part 1, sections 4, 5, and 6. So, we have part 4, part 1, element 4, trade promotes economic progress. Why do people engage in trade is the first question. Well, we know that with these, they kind of go in order. So, sorry, I'm doing this first thing in the morning. So what we need to look up here is, well, probably somewhere at the start of this video. Okay? Or not this video, sorry. At the start of this reading section on element 1.4. So let's just go and start off reading. The foundation of trade is mutual gain. People agree to an exchange because they expect to improve their well-being. The motivation for trade is summed up in the statement, if you do something good for me, I will do something good for you. Trade is a win-win transaction. This positive sum activity permits each of the trading partners to get more of what they value. Actually, I see a couple answers to our questions in there. So why do people engage in trade? Well, we just saw it here. It's the second sentence. People trade because they expect it to improve their well-being. Okay. And then we also have the second question here. Is trade productive? Does it lead to us having more stuff? Well, it doesn't lead to us having more stuff per se, but it is definitely a win-win. It does lead to people having more, right? Because we are, we have to do, if you want something, someone has to do something good for you. Or so you have to do something good for them. Yeah. So when we take these things, we can see that both people are ending up better off in a trade, right? Otherwise, that trade wouldn't happen. So yeah, it is productive, right? This positive sum activity permits each of the trading partners to get more of what they value. Each person is getting more value. Okay. What are the three major sources of gains from trade? There are great paragraphs that go very I shouldn't say very in depth. They go a little bit further in depth than just the first paragraph of each of these first paragraphs, but each of these first paragraphs is one of those three things that the reading guide is asking for you. I'm going to go ahead and read two headings of them, the two first paragraphs of two of these, just to demonstrate where the answers are. I'm going to actually read this whole paragraph here, the second one. Okay. So, first, trade moves goods from people who value them less to people who value them more, right? So trade can increase the value of goods even when nothing new is produced, right? It's productive even though nothing new is produced. Okay. Second, trade makes larger production and consumption levels possible because it allows each of us to specialize more fully in the things that we do best relative to the cost. When people specialize, they can sell these products to others. Revenues received can be used to purchase items that would be costly to produce themselves. Through these exchanges, people who specialize in this way will produce a larger total quantity of goods and services than would otherwise be possible. Economists refer to this principle as the law of comparative advantage. This law applies to trade among individuals, businesses, regions, and nations. The law of comparative advantage is just common sense. If someone else is willing to provide you with a product at a lower cost than you can provide it for yourself, it makes sense to trade for it. You can then use your time and resources to produce more of the things which you are a low-cost producer. In other words, produce what you produce best and trade for the rest. The result is that you and your trading partners will mutually gain from specialization and trade, leading to greater total production and higher incomes. In contrast, trying to produce everything yourself would be losing your time and resources to produce many things for which you are a high-cost provider. This would translate into lower production and income. I really need to start drinking on this coffee, huh? And then the third one was voluntary exchange allows firms to achieve lower per unit costs by adopting large-scale production methods. Matter of fact, the rest of these two paragraphs here is actually going to be for the next question, which is, why do you trade for things rather than produce them yourselves? Would Americans in general be better off if they did not buy so many things from others? I'm going to read the second paragraph here. The importance of trade in our modern world can hardly be exaggerated. Trade makes it possible for most of us to consume a bundle of goods and services far beyond what we could be able to produce ourselves. Guys, I mean, look at everything that's room that surrounds me, right? I have a whole lot of entertainment behind me. I'm wearing a shirt. I could never make any of these on my own, right? It's only because I can teach economics and trade for it that I'm able to consume it, yeah? So, me, if I made everything else on my own, would I be better off? Heck no, because I'd have to spend so much time learning how to make everything that I consume. Man, I wouldn't have anywhere near the same amount of stuff that I do, yeah? Number 6, what are economies of scale? How are they achieved? So they reference that up here in this sentence. Trade makes it possible for business firms to sell their output over a broad market area so they can plan for large outputs and adopt manufacturing processes that take advantage of economies of scale. So notice here, large outputs. The whole idea is, imagine if you're opening up a pizza store. Okay, you're going to sell pizza. So you need to be able to reach what's called economies of scale if you want this pizza business to be profitable, right? If you're just selling one pizza every day, right, to one person, you're not going to be able to be in business. However, if your one pizza store can sell to hundreds of people every day, well, now we're going to be able to have this pizza store that's open and not just being enough to get by, but also being profitable to where they're going to be able to reinvest and make even more pizzas in more places, right? So economies of scale are when your per unit costs get lower. Where are you going? We'll come back to this idea of the lower per unit cost, right? Economies of scale. Element 5, transaction costs. What are transaction costs and why are they an impediment to trade? Okay. Voluntary exchange promotes cooperation and helps us get more of what we want. However, trade itself is costly. It takes time, effort, and other resources to search out potential trading partners, negotiate trades, and close a sale. Resources spent in this way are called transaction costs, and they are an obstacle to the creation of wealth, right? So resources spent this way are called transaction costs. Okay, so what resources? The other resources that are used to search out trading partners, negotiate trades, and close on a sale, right? So what are transaction costs? They're things that it costs to do a trade. And why are they an impediment to trade? It makes trade more difficult. Okay. What is a middleman? Give a couple examples. People who help others arrange trades and make better choices, reduce transaction costs, and promote economic progress. Such specialists, sometimes called middlemen, include campus bookstores, real estate agents, stockbrokers, automobile dealers, and a wide variety of merchants. Many believe that middlemen merely increase the price of goods and services without providing benefits. If this were true, people would not use their services. Transaction costs are an obstacle to trade, and middlemen reduce these costs. This is why we value their services, right? They give the good example of real estate agents here, right? Guys, you can try to sell your house without a real estate agent. You're allowed to. That said, though, you may have your house sit longer on the market because the real estate agents, they're able to reach more buyers, right? So they help you sell your house. In the same way, you can buy a house without using a real estate agent, but you may have a harder time being able to get in and see these houses, and you may end up, not being able to put an offer on a house that you really like because you were never able to go and see that house. Yeah. However, we see over time that middlemen change, right? Middlemen used to be, most people used to buy houses with real estate agents, and that may be true now, but what we see a lot happening is that there's technological innovations like Zillow, where you can now look at houses online and even schedule visits through that application. Pretty sure it's an application, maybe a website. Anyways. We can move on to element 6 now. What is the law of demand? Well, the law of demand and law of supply, I think lucky for us, it's literally the first two sections here. Okay. Market prices will influence the choices of both buyers and sellers. When a rise in the price of a good makes it more expensive for buyers to purchase it, they'll normally choose to buy fewer units. Thus, there is a negative relationship between the price of a good or service and the quantity demanded. This negative relationship is known as the law of demand. So it's the negative relationship between price and quantity that people buy, right? Price goes up, people buy less. When price goes down, people buy more. Okay. The next question is asking about the law of supply. For sellers, the rise in the price of that product brings extra revenue that makes them willing to supply more of it. Thus, there is a positive relationship between the price of a good and the quantity producers supply. This positive relationship is known as the law of supply, right? So a positive relationship, meaning they follow each other, right? So if price goes up, quantity supplied goes up. If that makes sense, right? Imagine if someone was paying you $100 an hour, you would work way more hours than you normally do. And if price goes down, the quantity supplied goes down. If someone was paying you $5 an hour, you would work much less than you already do. You know? Okay. Price coordinates the choices of both consumers and producers and brings them into blank. On the graph, they call this what? So we have a supply and demand graph here. Okay, let's go ahead and read what they have under it. Now, for a really important point, the price will tend to move toward a level of $3 per quart of ice cream in our example. That will bring the quantity demanded into equality with the quantity supplied. At the equilibrium price of $3, consumers will want to purchase 15,000 quarts of ice cream per day, the same quantity that ice cream producers are willing to supply. Price coordinates the choices of both consumers and producers of ice cream and brings them into balance. Hey, that sounds like the question, right? Brings them into balance. Okay, so balance is the answer there. On the graph, what do they call this? Well, we can see the demand meets the supply curve here. The supply curve meets the demand curve here. Okay, so where are they brought into balance, right? Some suppliers, you know, they want to sell it for 5. Some want to sell it for 4. A lot of them want to sell it for 3. Some of the consumers want to buy this ice cream for $1. Some want to buy it for 2. A lot of them want to buy it for 3. So this is equilibrium. This is the balance they were talking about, right? So it's called equilibrium on a graph. Okay. In a market economy, will units of a good be produced and purchased if consumers value them more than their cost of production? Well, this one, there is a great deal that I want to read. They talk about eBay, and I think it's a brilliant, brilliant example. So let's go ahead and give it a read. The auction system on eBay illustrates the operation of demand and supply in a setting that is familiar to many. On eBay, sellers enter their reserve prices, the minimum prices they will accept for goods. Buyers enter their maximum bids, the maximum prices they are willing to pay. The auction management system will bid on behalf of the buyers in predetermined monetary increments. Bidding ensues until the trading period expires or a person agrees to pay the stated buy it now price. Exchange occurs only when buyers bid a price greater than the seller's minimum asking price. When this happens, an exchange will occur and both the buyer and the seller will gain. Though somewhat less visible than the eBay electronic market, the forces of demand and supply in other markets work similarly. The height of the demand curve indicates the maximum amount the consumer is willing to pay for another good of the unit, while the height of the supply curve shows the minimum price at which producers are willing to supply another unit. As long as the price is between the maximum the consumer is willing to pay. Sorry, I'll read that again. As long as the price is between the maximum the consumer is willing to pay and the minimum offer price of a seller, potential gains from trade are present. Moreover, when the equilibrium price is present, all potential gains from exchange will be realized. Thus, consumers will tend to purchase units only that have more value than the actual price. Similarly, producers will supply only units that can be produced at a cost less than that price. When the equilibrium price is present, units will be produced and purchased as long as the value of the goods to consumers exceeds the costs of the resources required for its production. There's an implication here. Market prices not only bring the quantity demanded and quantity supplied into balance, but it also directs producers to supply the goods that consumers value more than their cost of production. This holds true in any market. So, when we look at the question, in a market economy, will units of a good be produced and purchased if consumers value them more than the cost of production? Not only will they, but only will they be produced if consumers value them more than the cost of production, right? Because the producer's not going to produce it if they get less, right? And consumers aren't going to buy it unless they get more, right? So it's pretty cool that the only goods that are produced are the goods and services that provide consumers with more value than what it costs to produce them. Pretty cool stuff. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for working on this reading guide and furthering your economics education. Have a great day, and I hope this helps you prepare for the test.